Hello everybody. Today we will be talking about marriage visas. As with all of the videos, while I am a lawyer, in this particular case I am probably not your lawyer, and these are not a substitute for legal advice. This is for informational purposes only, and I hope it does help. So, a marriage visa is used to bring your spouse to the United States. Now, if your spouse is already in the United States, I suggest you check out our video about adjustment of status, and that may be more applicable to your situation. That being said, if you want to bring your spouse to the United States, it is a great pathway to permanent residency. It is a one-step process for your spouse to go from being in a foreign country to being able to come to the United States as a green card holder, which means that right from the beginning, they would be able to work, travel, and begin their lives here in the United States with you. The process generally takes about 8 to 10 months. It does depend a little bit upon the country in which your spouse is located. Some embassies are a little bit faster than others. So that said, it's still about 8 to 10 months as a general rule. So to answer most of your questions, we'll go through what we would generally ask a potential client as far as the qualifications go to do this process. The first thing would be are you an American citizen? Unlike a fiancé visa, this process is not limited only to American citizens, but the time frames in which you should expect are different. For an American citizen, it is about 8 to 10 months, as previously mentioned. For a green card holder to petition your spouse, which you can do, you're generally looking at about a 2-year wait time as of the time this video is shot. So it's very doable, same process, just a little bit longer. Now, that being said, we'd want to know when you got married. There is a slight difference in the green card that's issued between being married less than 2 years or more than 2 years. It doesn't change the process or the filings or anything of that nature. But if you have been married more than 2 years, then the result is a 10-year green card versus a 2-year conditional green card, which means that after 2 years, you need to prove to the government that you are, in fact, still married and that it's a real relationship. So, those would be the first questions. We'd also want to know your ages. While that does not matter on paper, unfortunately, it does matter to the government because they can make a subjective judgment as to whether your relationship is real or not. So, if you do have a very large age difference, we'd want to definitely prove to a higher degree that your relationship is in fact real and not being used simply to obtain a green card. Another question we'd like to know is about any sort of criminal history. Most things don't matter, but things such as sexual crimes, violence crimes, crimes related to drugs or alcohol, those can matter. And when addressed properly, they can usually be taken care of so that they don't create a problem later on. We would also want to know about the language level of your spouse. So, does she speak English? If she doesn't, do you speak her language? If there is a real gap in your ability to communicate, again, you might have some problems when trying to establish that this is a valid marriage, not simply a marriage being used to get an immigration benefit. Another question, and a very important one that we would ask, is about your income. Now, your income does matter. The government's willing to let your spouse come here if all the requirements are met, but they don't want her to go on public assistance. Her or him to go on public assistance. So, that being said, they're going to want to look at your tax returns, and in this case, they'll generally look at 3 years of tax returns. They want to make sure that you meet what they call 125% of the federal poverty guidelines. It's not a tremendous amount yearly, but it is an amount that we do need to demonstrate to them. If you do not meet the requirements, it's not the end of the world. If you have a family member or friend that is able to co-sponsor, then we could remedy the fact that you might not meet those poverty guidelines and move forward with them. Now, the other question that we would generally ask is regarding children. Do you have any children as a U.S. citizen? This matters on your taxes. The more people in your household, the higher your tax level needs to be, or the higher your income level needs to be. We'd also want to know about your spouse's children. Your spouse's children will affect the petition in that we can include them in many circumstances to bring them to the United States as well as permanent residents. Now, the criteria for bringing a child is that your marriage existed before the child turned 18 and the petition is filed before the child reaches the age of 21. So, if your spouse does have small children and they'd all be coming along, we can include them. The processing is done the same, but they are treated as individuals throughout the petition, which for you means it's going to cost you more money. As part of this process, there is an initial filing with USCIS and Homeland Security. Once it's approved, it goes to the National Visa Center, where there's additional filings, including your financial statements. Once it's approved there, then it's going to be transferred to the U.S. Embassy in your spouse's country. He or she will need a medical exam leading up to the interview, as would any children, if applicable. And they would go in then for an interview to make sure that everything's on the up and up. If it is, then they would be granted what is initially a visa, but once used and they do travel into the United States, it converts into permanent residency. Again, you're looking at about 8 to 10 months for a U.S. citizen to do this. We've done well over 1,000 of these petitions over the years. We're very good at what we do, and our prices are fair. So I suggest that you give us a call, 888-902-9285. If you are not looking at this video on the website, I do also suggest you check out the website at lawofficeimmigration.com. There is plenty of information about that process and other processes as they may apply to you. Thanks for watching.